Chris and Phil, why did you want to make this movie?
We love Miles Morales. We thought that was an amazing way to tell the Spider-Man story. We fell in love with the book, and when Sony came to us and said, you know, we want to do an animated Spider-Man movie, we said, we'll do it, but it has to be Miles. Yep. And we started, yeah, give it up for Miles Morales. It's amazing. Woo! And then we got sort of carried away, and it kind of grew from there. The whole idea is, how do we tell this story in a refreshing way? How do we tell it through somebody else's experience? How do we put a new spin on it? And Miles is a great start.
This is the best opportunity ever to tell a story that actually looked like a comic book, like you were literally walking into a comic book. So from the very beginning, we said, what can we do? How can we make a movie that looks like nothing you've ever seen before, that's like a completely unique cinematic experience that feels like you're walking into the pages of a three-dimensional comic book? And to everybody here's credit, these three geniuses over here, they were able to make it look like something you've never seen before and something that has to be seen on a big screen. We've been fans of Shameik for a long time. We loved him ever since we saw him for the first time in Dope, and we've known him for a while from different auditions and things, that we've always felt like this guy is brilliant. He's so sincere, he's funny, he's cool, he's everything that Miles is. He's got a really unique, positive take on life. This is his first Comic-Con. It's his first time he's been here.
Yeah.
And from the beginning, we were like, this guy is the guy, and we were right.
I was thankful for the opportunity. The fact that it looks this beautiful, and the fact that the writing is so amazing, and that the cast is so amazing, was a pleasant surprise. But the fact that I was able to have the opportunity to audition, to book, and become Miles Morales was the original, oh my gosh, this would be amazing.
Well, Jake, why don't you tell us a little bit about your Peter Parker?
Well, it's Peter Parker at 40. And it's Peter Parker with a bad back, and it's Peter Parker who's not sure if he still wants to be Spider-Man, and what it means to be, Spider-Man after the excitement of being Spider-Man. He meets Miles in this movie, and Miles needs him to be a mentor and needs things from him, but he doesn't see himself as a mentor or a teacher, and he doesn't want to be. But he sees something really special in this guy, and it reminds him of what he loves about having those powers.
Miles just needs a teacher. He doesn't really want to be Spider-Man. He doesn't want this extra responsibility. He's just trying to go to school like a normal kid, middle school. All of a sudden, he bit by this spider, and he got these powers, and now people trying to kill him. And he has this duty of saving multiple universes. And now I meet this Spider-Man, and I'm like, hey, dude, you need to teach me. No.
I don't need to teach you.
Why not?
Go away, kid.
Dude, I really need you to help me save the world.
Not now. And I think Peter is...
And scene.
Just not now.
Really?
Not now, on your own time.
No, Miles. And I think Peter's in a situation where he sees this kid asking something from him, and he doesn't want to give it to him. But he's so persistent. And anytime someone's really persistent, after a while, if you're any sort of a human, you break down and give in.
Haley, let's go to talking about Gwen Stacy, aka Spider-Gwen. What excited you most to play her?
The fact that she is really just the toughest and the coolest and the smartest and the most capable one in the room, and she knows it.
All of these characters are born out of tragedy on some level. And the thing that's interesting about intersecting their stories is, for the first time, there's somebody out there that knows what they're going through. And the thing that's so interesting to me about the relationship between, Spider-Gwen and Miles, and in our movie, all of these guys, is that they finally have like a tribe that they can hang out with. And here's somebody who doesn't have a real buddy and is almost afraid to have a friend because you lost that friend. You know what I mean? And so the fact that they kind of get to find each other is a really beautiful part of the movie to me.
Well, as far as style, a lot of it, starts with Phil and Chris, and this whole approach to the movie, which is that we're trying to push every aspect of this in a way that you haven't seen before, and we're being challenged every day to think of ways to tell this story in a way that you haven't seen before. And then as far as, the characters, it really starts with the book, the book, the heart of the book is Miles and his family and their relationship, and that's the heart of the movie.
It's a really ambitious movie. It's probably the most ambitious thing about it is that it introduces a whole new version of Spider-Man. I mean, comics fans, most of you guys, you've known Miles for a while, but the world at large doesn't really know him and doesn't really have experience of a different character kind of bearing this mantle. And the fascinating thing about it to me is that, the same things that applied to Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility. Those same ideas transfer onto another character who couldn't be more different than Peter in so many ways, and yet the strength of the original idea of the character still holds firm. It's still Spider-Man.
What we're really trying to achieve, too, was just an interpretation of a comic book that actually made it on screen and felt cinematic, but still was beholden to the original source material, which was a comic.
Where did you get the inspiration for this new approach?
I literally torn from the pages of the comics. I mean,
That's awesome.
100%. And then it was just a matter of looking at, the process that we go through to make these movies and see how visually you could translate that flat medium into a three-dimensional space and project it and still feel, the scope of a large film, but also the intimacy of the page and the panel on the page. One of the greatest strengths of comics is that it manages to encapsulate in one image a really succinct, powerful story point or motion or action, and in our process of animation, we really tried to achieve that same feeling.
Miles' story takes place in an alternate dimension to our own. The Spider-Verse is basically, all of these alternate ways of telling this story, and all of these different people that experience it. And the thought of this movie was, what if those different stories intersected? And what would it do? How would it shake them up? What would happen if these people met? And I think that's like the power of this character, is that we've told his story so many different ways. And like Shameik says, anyone could be behind that mask. We can all imagine ourselves behind that mask. I think that's the cool thing about Spider-Man. And it's the interesting thing about comics culture and the fact that there's so many of these movies, that the story keeps getting told. And each time, the differences and variations in the ways that it gets told, those are really interesting to us.
Well, it looks absolutely amazing. Thank you guys so much for sharing that with us here at Comic-Con. Big round of applause for our panelists, guys.
Thank you guys so much.